I know what that song means. That song means not only is blasphemy here to stay, but it is time for another episode of The Nonprofits, the show where we discuss the news and topics of the day from a skeptical humanist perspective. My name is Secular Rarity, and today's topics are insert adjectives of your choice to describe how amazingly awesome the topics are. Wait a second here. Anyway, to help me stay on track and make sure that I actually fill in those blanks, we have a fantastic panel with us today. Joining us once again is the man himself, Scott Dickie. What is up, Scott?
Hey, SR. Thanks for having me back again. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, I am excited to be back here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's get it going. Let's roll.
Yeah, and also with us back once again, we can't keep him away. It's Jason freaking Sherwood. What is up, man? He is very excited and ready to be.
Let me tell you, I'm not used to the time shift here. You know, spring ahead, fall behind, lose your mind. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. I will say, you know, I may just not be a fan of daylight savings time at all. So, we'll talk about that after the show, though. But and with us here for the first time ever, our special guest, Jimmy Jr. What is up, man? Are you ready for this?
What is up, gentlemen? Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm welcome to shots about looking like Mr. Clean, but I promise it's not intentional. So I'll try and grow some hair. Maybe. I don't know if that's going to work out.
That's right. And we'll wait till after the show to ask if you enjoyed it enough to come back. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll give you a chance to see how you feel.
It comes from a place of love. Just understand that.
No more white T-shirts for me.
Well, as always, folks, I have to remind you that this show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And boy, do some of our topics hit on that stuff today. So up first, we're going to talk about cuffs and treatment refusal, walk into a jail. I can't wait to hear the punchline, that one. Then we've got how Havana Syndrome is apparently not caused by aliens. Sorry about that, Truth Wanted. We know that was a bummer for y'all. Then we've got New York's mayor takes down Florida's Ron DeSantis and the Establishment Clause. And then finally, we'll end with some Christian parents who stood up for LGBTQ rights against their church and their children's school. So we are definitely interested in hearing that. And as always, folks, with all of the shows here on the Nonprofits, the links to today's topics and the news that we discuss are available in the description below the video. And just a reminder, you can always come to the show prepared just by checking out the Nonprofits Facebook fan page every Friday night for a list of the articles ahead of time. I'll say, when you come to these shows and you're prepared and you're ready, it's even more fun because you can just join in with it. And a lot of us hosts tend to be there. You know, we like to hang out in the live show. So, but before we go completely off the rails and Jimmy just leaves out of frustration, Jason, what's going on in Washington? What has happened up there with this woman and some treatment refusal?
So we don't actually know a tremendous amount of what is actually happening. And our first article does come from Yahoo News by Cara. And I've actually been checking in on this all the way up to the recording. And I'm going to keep checking on this, past the recording date to see if there is any additional information. But a woman contracted tuberculosis and she is refusing to get treatment for it, possibly because she's confused by what's going on. Like I said, there's not a whole lot. The arrest was supposed to happen on last Friday, but we still don't know. Jimmy, what are you thinking about this article?
Well, this one strikes close to home. I think for most of us, especially anytime since 2020, we hear stories of people refusing treatment for disease, and it's a matter of individual rights versus the greater good of society at large, right? And so I think she took a lot of unnecessary steps, although I would like to know what it is that she thinks. I actually don't know what is causing her to be so difficult for law enforcement and for medical professionals. So I kind of would like a lot of information there, or a little more information there. But it only takes about between 4 and 9 months to maybe overcome this disease, and she's been non-compliant for over a year, and so I think not only is the law coming for her, now she runs the risk of developing more evolved and dangerous strands, which are not good for her or anybody else, especially if she wants to go out in public. And that is exactly what she's been doing. Not only has she been walking around in public, but she actually reported to an emergency room after a car accident and brought another virus that we're all familiar with her that I'm not going to mention. And so I think just blatant neglect like this is a detriment to the public. It should be treated seriously. I don't want to see anybody confined. I don't want to see her not be comfortable. But after being giving options for so long to receive treatment and be comfortable because she's been offered treatment or the opportunity to not receive treatment and be isolated. Neither of those seem to be working for her. So it's a little bit reckless. And unfortunately, I think that her refusal is it's appropriate, for her to be confined and treated.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely. But before I throw it to you, Scott, and get your thoughts on this, one of the first things that came to my mind is actually a pretty old case that was settled a long time ago. So back in 1905, Jacobson v. Massachusetts, it was ruled that a state actually does have the authority to enact a compulsory vaccination law. Now, that was specifically related to a smallpox outbreak. And there may be some of us out there watching this that are like, oh my gosh, well, smallpox was so long ago. Actually, no. In fact, we on this show, I think about a year or so ago, talked about another smallpox outbreak in a very religious community up in New York, I believe. And it was because they weren't getting these vaccinations. Even recently, Biden v. Missouri. This happened in January of 2022, and it basically upheld the requirement that, yeah, government healthcare workers do have to get these vaccines. So definitely this seems to me like it's already kind of settled law. But what do you think on this, Scott?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you would think that it was settled law, but as Jimmy said, this is it's something that's come up quite a bit in the news since COVID. We have people that are not wanting to vaccinate for whatever reason, and there are many legitimate reasons to not want to be vaccinated, but there, of course, are many not legitimate reasons to do that. But so we need to balance. What we're really talking about is well, like you said, the legal issue has largely been decided already. I mean, there is firm legal footing to make a decision one way or the other. But we should also look at what should we do. Where do we want that balance? We want personal freedoms, yes. We want public health to be supported, yes. And so we need to balance that. Do we? And so naturally, of course, as most conversations go, leads us to economist Adam Smith, right? It seems like we always end up there at Adam Smith. He believed that people will choose their actions based on what he called enlightened self-interest. And that refers to the idea that people will make choices that are best for themselves. And the aggregate of that will be that, it will promote the good for others. People will see the benefit to themselves for promoting the public good. And so we could argue that same attitude could result from evolution. I mean, it's the same kind of process, right? Evolution is a short-sighted mechanism and, can cause change over time. Whoops, sorry about that. And can cause change over time. Same thing here. People have their little, their greedy, short-sighted, viewpoints. And so the idea is that they want to make their choice and then it will eventually promote the goodness for the rest. I don't know, Jason, what do you think on this?
So again, like I said, we don't really have a whole lot of information on what's going on with her. And with our main article, it didn't give any of her viewpoint at all. And so I actually dug a little bit deeper to find out if there's anything that she was saying. If this was a type of bodily autonomy where, oh, no, it's my body, I get to decide what goes into it. And it doesn't seem that that's the case, because she started to do some of these treatments and then all of a sudden stopped. Now, is it the treatments affecting her? Did she go online? We have no idea. We have no idea what's going through her mind. What we do know is that the intention of the arrest is not like to arrest her and then put her away until she, decides to get treated. Although she will be treated once she gets arrested. They will be taking her to an isolation. I don't think she's even really going to go to jail. She's probably going to go to the hospital and into isolation, get treated, and then potentially released the same day. So this isn't like, some people might say, oh, it's the Gestapo government and this, that, and the other thing. That's not what this is. It may seem like it to some people, and I get the overreach, and all the officials were really going out of their way to give her every opportunity. Like I said, she was supposed to be arrested on Friday. We don't have any information as to whether or not that has actually happened. So she could potentially still be walking around, going to the grocery store. We don't know. We just don't know. And the fact that they're taking such a measured response to a disease, which, like we said earlier, is very rare in this country, is I commend them for at least giving these options and saying, okay, you got to make these deadlines. Let us know what your intentions are at the very least. And we haven't been getting, or not we, but the officials have not been getting that.
Yeah. And we've all kind of, touched on this a little bit in regards to the right of individuals to make, healthcare decisions for themselves, right? There are lots and lots of different cases that we have talked about on this show, where one side apparently does not like the idea that people can make health decisions for themselves, but then apparently when it comes to stuff like this, where they actually can harm other people by not making certain decisions, then they're all for it. It's a little hypocritical, but hey, I really do. Reading through this, I agree with you, Jason. It does seem like the officials involved in this were really going further than they even needed to, because they were trying so hard to be like, look, please just go get this treatment. Like, we don't want to arrest you. We don't want to have to put you in jail. It's kind of like when when there's a couple of 17-year-olds, hanging out, and they have some silly little stupid thing they do after school, and the cops come and say, hey kids, everybody just go home, stop acting like idiots. The officers are trying to say, look, we're giving you an out here, lady. Like, we're doing everything we can. And it again, we don't have a lot of information. It didn't seem as if this individual was like hardcore stance, oh no, I'm not going to do it. But there definitely are consequences. What do you think on this, Jimmy? Are they coming down on the right side? Is this just a huge overreach? What do you feel on that?
No, I don't think that it's an overreach. And, as we're talking here, there's one thing that we actually don't have. We don't have like a codified law that says after a certain amount of time of, refusing medical treatment, or, after a certain amount of time, in general, a person can be, taken in or whatever. So I think that just speaks to the fact that the authorities really probably didn't know what the right course of action was, but still tried to give her so much leeway that they could make an informed decision based on her noncompliance. This isn't one of those things where an emergency was created so that the long arm of the law can do whatever it wants. This is 100% about trying to avert a larger emergency. And so I say all of these things, reluctantly, because I really want to be sympathetic for this woman. I don't know anything about her. I hope the best for her.
Yeah, definitely. Scott, anything else you have on this?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we definitely have to. I agree that it seems like the authorities were handling this with kid gloves. They don't want to be making an aggressive stance one way or the other, especially in hot political times. It seems like we're always in hot political times, but this is one of the subjects du jour, right? This is something that's on the radar lately, and so so they don't necessarily want to make a strong stance either way. However, in another way, I would also say that the authorities definitely do know what the right course of action is. They know that the right course of action is to vaccinate people who are going to be around other people. They talk about rights, but this famous saying, your freedom to swing your arm ends at the tip of my nose. And so if you foregoing your vaccine puts me or my loved ones or anybody else in danger, then it's not just a matter of your own rights. You are infringing on the rights of being healthy, the right to life, the right to be able to freely access public areas and things like that. You're infringing on the rights of others. And so this is what I was talking about before with that short-sightedness of that enlightened self-interest, right? You can't see beyond the end of your arm. And so it's hard to see where the tip of that other person's nose is. And so, I think in this case, it's clearly a small inconvenience to get a tuberculosis vaccination. And, it seemed, like I said, I think the authorities they know what the right course of action is, but I think they're handling it well. And I think they're handling it appropriately. They're handling it in a way that shows that they're not trying to run roughshod over this person's rights, but they are trying to enforce common sense mandates for public health. And so I think that the way it's been proceeding is good. I would love to hear more of this woman's perspective. Like we've all said, I'd love to hear. I mean, because there are, like we said before, there are legitimate reasons to want this. It kind of smells a little bit like she's just trying to make a point. I don't want to assume that, so I'm not assuming that. But I think that we'll have to wait and see. I'd love to see what's happening here behind the scenes.
Yeah. Jason, any final thoughts on this?
Again, I don't think it's much about making a point. I really don't, because she started the treatment and then she stopped. If there was a point being made, I think that she would be all over social media, putting the state of Washington on blast, putting the medical industry on blast, putting everything that she could on blast, because you see that all over the place. It's like, especially with the latest COVID scares, and we're still not fully out of the woods. It's probably going to be around to stay, unfortunately, be kind of a yearly vaccination. So the fact that I don't see it being a statement. I don't see it being like it's a my body thing. I really do think that it is a confusion, possibly that maybe she thought the start of her treatment was the end of her treatment. It's hard to say, because again, we don't have much. So that's why I say I'm going to keep on watching this. And if Jason in the chat over there, if you have anything to say about it, or if Jason in the discussion down there, hello, do you have anything to say about it? I don't know, because this is pre-recorded, but we'll find out. We'll find out, because I will definitely keep on this for a little while. I can't watch it forever, but I'm definitely gonna see it over there, see it down below. We'll find out.
Yeah, and like you guys have mentioned a couple of times, this was a woman that was diagnosed with tuberculosis. She started the treatment. She didn't finish the treatment. She got it again. They started to give her the treatment. She didn't. So this is just definitely a confusing situation. It would be great if there was a vaccine, for stuff that people could take that would help them, be a little bit safer and healthier. The good news is there are for a lot of things, and they're really well tested and scientifically proven. So Jimmy, any other quick thoughts before we move on to the next segment?
Well, I think we've all emphasized enough the fact that we are missing a lot of information. I just have an inkling maybe she doesn't have all of her faculties about her. I don't know why. I don't know why. I think that's something that needs to be considered. She just the starting of the treatment, then the disappearing and the reluctance. It kind of seems to me. It just seems so fishy to me, and I almost wonder if it's just difficult to work with her or something like that, because maybe she's just old and mentally incapacitated in some way, and that adds a different element. Probably a different discussion altogether.
Yeah, definitely. Scott, you have one final thing?
I did. I forgot. It just.
That's okay. Just shout it out. At
Yeah,
any point
right.
in time.
Yeah. If it comes back, I'm just going to blurt it out. Yeah. So
We'll blame
sorry about that.
daylight savings time.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely.
I remember.
Go ahead.
I remember it now. Yeah, I think something that we've heard from all of us, though, is that we just don't know her situation. So I think it's important that we separate. There's two issues here. There's this woman and her personal situation, but then there's also the subject in general that of balancing personal freedom versus public health. So I think we need to we make sure that we're talking about one thing and or not the other thing.
Definitely. And again, as always, folks, the links to these articles are in the description. You all know this is a pre-recorded show, so by the time this is actually airing on Sunday, there may be some updates and stuff. So definitely go check that out. Go check out the Nonprofits Facebook fan page. You can find all those links there as well. But before we move on, we absolutely have to, contractually obligated, they won't let me back unless I give a huge thank you to all of our veteran and new viewers for getting us so darn close to 12,000 subscribers. This is awesome. I have been thrilled the entire time I've been here on this show. We have seen that number go up and up and up, and it is amazing. So if you're watching us right now and you haven't already done that, go ahead and subscribe for us. And once you've subscribed, like the video, ring that bell, and then you will always know when there is new awesome stuff happening on the Nonprofits. There's actually really cool stuff every single day, so you might want to check it out. And you already know 3 p.m. Central Time on Sundays. That's when we have the new episode. But once you do all that stuff, why not just share the link to the channel? Just start, like, I don't know, posting it on Facebook or, your local message boards, or do people do like little corkboard things at like offices and stuff? I don't know. Don't do anything you're not supposed to do, folks, but share it out to all of your friends. And then that is awesome because we grow our community here and we can get some really good help with those fundraisers. And that just means so freaking much to us. And finally, are you aware? Did you know that the atheist community of Austin has another YouTube channel? Well, we do. So go check out the Atheist Experience Network. It's a channel where you can find all of the ACA shows in podcast form. So if you just want to hear our beautiful voices and not see our beautiful faces, that's okay. We won't judge you. Just go and subscribe at tiny.cc/AEN podcast. And you can listen to all the episodes of the Nonprofits, the Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted, and all of the ACA shows. So don't miss a single freaking episode. We make it easy for you, folks. We put the link right there. So it's easy. There's no excuse at this point. But we're actually going to continue a little bit in a medical vein. And we're going to talk about how apparently the U.S. intelligence agencies have decided Havana Syndrome is not caused by aliens. So this is going to be fun, folks. I have been following this story for years now. Okay. I mean, honestly, every single article that has come out since 2016, I have gone in depth. I have read 4 freaking times. I have listened to every possible discussion. So I am going to give just the quickest little history I can in case anybody is unfamiliar. Basically, back in 2016, after the US had finally reopened diplomatic relations with Cuba, a couple of the State Department people down there started having these really weird symptoms. And it was like a dozen and a half of them. And it was this, whole range of different things like, cognitive ability problems, disorientation, piercing loud noises, vertigo, just vomiting. I mean, hemorrhaging, neurological disorders. I mean, all kinds of incredible symptoms. Okay. One of the weirdest things was that it all seemed to be hitting U.S. U.S. Government employees and so forth. They all seem to come on kind of out of nowhere and then stop out of nowhere. And we really don't have an explanation. There have been a lot of different things that have been discussed. One of them, funny enough, was that possibly the noise that people were hearing was related to a short-tailed cricket that lives in Cuba. So there's a lot of different things out there that it could be. And I know we're going to talk even more on some of this because actually our special guest today, Jimmy Jr., has a little bit of expertise in some of this, man. So why don't you help us out a little bit and tell us about what's going on? It's not aliens. It's not foreign adversaries. How do we know?
Yeah, well, first of all, when I came across it and I am familiar with it, I just said, "What? Like, how are we glossing over the proof of aliens before we start deciding they're not attacking U.S. diplomats?" You can't just start giving them characteristics without telling me where I can find them. I do want to give a little disclaimer on this before I dive into this. Forgive me, but I was a member of the intelligence community for 7 years. I've since moved on. I'm doing something different. But I just want to say that my views are my own, not representative of any unit or entity in the intelligence community, the Department of Defense, or the United States government. Having said that, I just want to kind of cover what goes into making an intelligence assessment, okay, and some of the complexities, if I may. So when making an intelligence assessment, there is 2 kinds of categories that you look at, or 2 criteria to how you make it, right? You look at your confidence level. And then you look at likelihood. So confidence level, the number of sources that I have, and then the veracity of those sources. Do those sources come from reliable people or agencies? Can I test those sources? And then the likelihood, do the actions fit what I would expect, right? So, for example, if I come 20 miles within Zimbabwe's border, are they going to fly a plane at me and tell me to leave? I would know that before I make an assessment on what Zimbabwe is going to do. Okay, so when we look at, if foreign adversaries are doing it, right, it kind of looks like, yeah, maybe we have a motive. Maybe that makes sense for us, right? But we don't have a smoking gun. We really have no evidence. And what we have here in this case is there are 18 agencies that are part of the intelligence community, right? And we have 7 of them agreeing that there's a very low likelihood, and they have pretty moderate to low confidence. Confidence levels varying between them. The reason that's significant is it's pretty difficult to get these agencies to agree with each other on a lot of things, right? They have pretty different wants and needs, right? If they're both competing for the same kind of funding from the government, and maybe they have an idea. The Office of Naval Intelligence might say, no, the biggest threat to the country is X, and then the National Reconnaissance Office says, no, these space threats are what's more important. We need the money, right? But here we have almost half of them agreeing that we have absolutely no reason to think that a foreign adversary is doing it. I kind of find that actually pretty refreshing. Personally, from the standpoint that I don't think the intelligence community ever really recovered from the 2004 Iraq invasion, for those of us who remember that. I think they were blamed for it a lot. And I think what happens when you see the intelligence community in the media, it's often kind of looked at negatively. Maybe there's a cover up, or maybe they don't know what they're doing. But in this case, I can say with pride, they are saying, I don't know. And that is good enough for me, because not enough people say, I don't know, and they don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And that's how you end up with gods and fairies and little green men, or so we thought. So now we've got everybody agreeing that little green men are also not involved. And so I kind of think it's funny. I'm glad that they're all agreeing that there are no aliens. They probably got this question and said, you know what, let's just treat it like a serious question. It reminds me, so years ago when the Malaysia Airlines flight disappeared in 2014, there was a prominent news outlet, and they had a prominent news anchor or news anchor, we'll just go with, who was interviewing like a spokesperson for the FAA or the NTSB, and they said, hey, what are the chances this plane got lost in a black hole? And that person had to sit there and take that question seriously.
Well,
I think that's what's happening here. I think somebody turned around and said, hey, what about aliens? And they have to kind of just be like, no, man, we have no reason to think that whatsoever. And I'm glad they did. So thank you for letting me go off on that spiel.
Yes.
Jason, curious to see what you have to say about that.
Yeah, you can't take anything off the table until you rule it out. So could it have been this? Could it have been that? Absolutely. Hold on a second. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm doing a show right now. All right. Sorry, I haven't had dinner yet. Just order me a nothing burger with conspiracy cheese, okay? All right, thank you. Anyway, sorry about that.
Does that come with curly fries too?
Possibly. I don't know. It's really kind of
the kids meal comes with
air,
the kids meal comes with a tinfoil hat. So
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, she walked away. Anyway, honestly, I am not as excited about this as Secular Rarity or Jimmy are, because these conspiracy theories, unless there's any actual tangible evidence, I kind of just, okay, this is cool, but I don't care about what it could be. I care about what it is. I have, it's no secret that I've been in the military and in the Navy. I travel to a lot of different countries. Some of those countries didn't always have the best water standards. Now, we all know about the myth, and sometimes it's not a myth, of Montezuma's revenge if you drink the water in Mexico. I don't know that that's the case. I think their water standards probably have come up over the past, several years. But in Malaysia, I had a lot of these symptoms myself, because I was dumb enough to drink a smoothie that was made out of ice that was using the water of Malaysia. And they told us that the water standards where we were going are not to what our body is used to. And so, yeah, the people of Havana are not getting sick. And then if it is this cricket, that'd be cool. Okay. It's like you have a cricket that dissuades invaders from coming into your country. That's pretty awesome.
Very loud cricket.
Yeah. So, and we've also seen myths of the brown note, where a certain low frequency would cause you to evacuate your bowels, to which the Mythbusters sufficiently tested. They tested all different range of frequencies. They even tested the volume of those frequencies, and it was only very low frequencies at a very large volume where people started to feel uncomfortable, because it was actually affecting the air.
Right.
Like they were not able to get enough air to breathe. And I'm going to include a wiki article on the brown note, because it does mention the Mythbusters portion in there, which is, I think is absolutely hilarious. And is there some merit to it? I mean, there could be, but only in such extremes. I would say that there is something more environmental. Because there were other dignitaries who did suffer the same thing, and other dignitaries who didn't.
Yeah.
So it seems more like it's an environmental thing than anything else. unless Scott, you want to prove me wrong.
Well, I think I agree. But I think what we're seeing here, or what we may be seeing, is actually some decent science being done. I mean, it can be frustrating when people that are looking into problems, and I don't doubt that there's problems, that there are, that these people are suffering from symptoms, and I can understand that they want to know why, and they want to be able to do something about it, and they want to be able to explain it. But at the same time, we don't want to rush to conclusions. We don't want to succumb to necessarily public pressure to get an answer, get something written down so that we can all feel comfortable that, oh, okay, we've solved that. Now let's move on to the next thing. I think that there's some prudence involved here. I think, we want to make sure that we gather information, that we, as the article said, exhausting all possible causes, which of course literally is not what's happening here, but they're doing a thorough investigation. They're treating the victims properly and fairly. They're looking into this thing. One thing that would concern me, though, and this was from the article, is that some of the groups representing the victims were claiming that the government is not being transparent. And on one hand, I can understand that it's not always easy or convenient or even safe to share all of the information. But we've learned from history, and we know that sometimes when that happens, it's for good reasons, and sometimes when that happens, it's for not so good reasons. And so I'm in a let's find out some more information kind of situation. What about you, SR? What do you think here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the commonly cited hypotheses for this has to do with basically like this microwave energy kind of weapon. And one of the reasons that this has been cited is because of, again, due to, some of the brain hemorrhaging and some of the brain scans that these individuals, we've seen from them. And it does actually show neurological damage. And I think that's really important here, is that, even if us here on the panel or the intelligence community in the United States, even if we're saying we don't know what the answer is, and it's not right for us to just, shoehorn something in, we're not discounting the experiences of these individuals. They absolutely had these symptoms. They absolutely have these problems. And we should want to get to the bottom of it. And we should want to, help them through this, right? These are State Department individuals. These are people working for our government, like abso-freaking-lutely we should be taking care of them. But we shouldn't just say, hey, it looks like this could have been caused by a, microwave radiation energy weapon, especially when there is literally no credible evidence that that thing even exists to begin with. Okay. So yeah, I'm with you all here. We need some more info again. But there definitely is something here. So I'm glad that we're taking it seriously and looking into it. Jason, final thoughts?
You're wrong. Actually, you are wrong, specifically about directed energy weapons.
Ooh.
They do exist.
Oof.
We do have microwave weapons. They have actually been deployed, typically against our own civilians. Most of them are designed to, like the microwave ones are designed to heat up a person, and typically like the epidermis, the skin, and make them want to leave an area. If you stay in that field too long, it can have prolonged damage to external and even internally if you absorb enough of that radiation. There are directed energy weapons in the form of lights. Even a spotlight could technically be a directed energy weapon if used correctly, or in a certain situation. But like laser strikes on airplanes, that's a directed energy weapon.
Just to be clear, though, be clear, so we're not giving credence to a conspiracy theory. You're talking about very specific types of things, as opposed to this type of radiation weapon that people are claiming is what caused these problems, right?
Well, they don't know if it's a particular microwave, because if it's a certain frequency, I mean, we do have X-rays
Mhm.
pierce through the skin in order to
Sure.
be blocked by bones, so you can see if there's a break. So yeah, there are penetrative types of radiation, electrical, that could potentially be a weapon. It's something that we have been studying for decades. So to say that these things don't exist, maybe not to this particular degree, maybe not to this particular effect, but to say categorically it doesn't exist, I would say is a disservice.
That's fair. I think that's totally fair. Yeah. Scott, any other thoughts on this before we let Jimmy wrap us up?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just, patience is a lost art these days. And so I think that patience and persistence is also a lost art. So I think if we, if we stick to our guns there, we persist, we exhibit patience. And, I'm hoping that we will get more information, in particular for people that are suffering from these symptoms, as well as just healthcare professionals in general. If there is something going on, we want to be able to do something about it. But I'm curious. I saw a twinkle in Jimmy's eye when Jason was talking there, so I want to hear the story behind that twinkle before we move on here.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Okay. So, SR, I think you made a great point. It is extremely important that we remember that these symptoms are real, and these people deserve care and they deserve our respect. I think that another thing that kind of deserves some consideration, and we might have harped on it a little bit, but getting this wrong can have major implications for civil unrest and other geopolitical implications, right? So we don't want to kind of plant our flag on something that is ultimately going to either be proven wrong or just doesn't have the kind of evidence to support it, and do it prematurely. We see that play out in politics a lot, and I think the last thing, honestly, that this country needs, that our society needs, is something else to divide us and get blown out of proportion. As far as the twinkle in my eye, direct energy weapons. So yeah, they take it would take a radio wave, a certain type of radar wave. I think that for hypothetically speaking, for somebody to carry around a device that would be able to penetrate through brick, or somebody to set up miles away and target a U.S. diplomat in a building or something like that, that would take a pretty big operation, in my opinion. I'm no technical expert, so I think that there might, if that were happening, there maybe might be a little bit more that we could go off of, kind of like trying to peel back the onion and detect what was maybe happening in the area. I am also, very intrigued by the fact that there's a lot of technological stuff happening that we just don't know the answer to. So again, we don't know. And Jason, I thought that was a great synopsis of what's happening out there, and what the likelihood could be.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And to echo onto Jimmy's point, a device that is sufficiently powerful enough to do something like that would be the size of a truck or a bus.
That's pretty big.
Okay, so it's not something you're going to put in your pocket unless we can get our power requirements down or figure out how to make an arc reactor. It's not happening in the pocket-sized device.
Yeah. And that's just what they want you to think too. That's just what they want you to think.
When's that nothing burger
coming in? Seriously, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. Well, we definitely are big fans of being accurate here. And we're pedantic and we love all the nuance and stuff. And that's what we try to do here. We want people to make sure they have the most correct information. And yeah, honestly, it's good. Hey, these types of weapons are out there, but hey, maybe they're not something that could actually be used in this type of capacity. Again, they'd have to be driving around a big 18-wheeler. So it's, I guess not possible, but I will.
So clearly it's aliens. Clearly it's aliens. Okay, let's move on. Next story.
There's my damn lightsaber.
Oh gosh, folks. Well, we do have a couple of other very interesting segments, but before we do, we have to remind you about the awesome thing that happens at the end of every month in Austin, Texas. Every freaking month, the end of the month, there's a live broadcast from the ACA Free Thought Library. So if you are in the Austin area on Sunday, March 26th, why not consider joining us in the studio audience for the live broadcasts of both Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience? Doors will be open at noon on Sunday, and parking is where you can find a legal spot after the lot is full. So if you get there early, you get a little bit closer. And if you can't make it there this month, that's okay, because we will continue to broadcast live from the library the last Sunday of each month. So just keep watching this show and go visit the website atheist-community.org for news and information as we expand our in-studio offerings in the near future. Also, I actually will be there at the end of this month. So if you are excited and you want to come hang out with me and take some calls or stuff, I totally understand. If you just heard all of that and thought, actually, March, I could get there. Oh, SR is going to be there. Never mind. No worries. Seriously, no
I'll wait
judgment.
till April.
Yeah. Remember, there's the AE and podcasts and stuff. You don't ever have to see me. So, but before they completely cancel us, Jimmy, what's been going on with New York City Mayor Eric Adams? He's taking shots.
Yeah. So coming from the guy in Florida who was born and raised in New York, I thought I'd take on this one. So we have this article, among a few others that kind of were lumped into it, but the main one being from ABC News. Mark Osborne wrote how New York City Mayor Eric Adams takes shots at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis ahead of the Florida governor's visit to Staten Island, New York. So we know that Ron DeSantis is known for probably legislating from a place of faith. A lot of faith-based ideas and laws going into effect in Florida. And Eric Adams, the Ron DeSantis being a Republican, Eric Adams being a Democrat, the mayor of New York City. Well, his line of thinking is kind of opposite from what Ron DeSantis has going on. But ironically, Eric Adams is or was noted repeating a popular Republican talking point where he is not afraid to legislate from faith either. So makes for a very interesting topic. A lot of back and forth going on. And I'll pass it off to SR. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there was definitely a good bit here. I'll start with this just because I really think this is important for all of us to remember and when we're having this conversation, right? This is not one of those hypothetical fun conversations that we all have sitting around in the living room with the snacks and the things of adult varieties and whatnot. The separation of church and state and the erosion of that is something that is happening right here in front of us. It's something that is continuing to change on a daily basis. We have seen the Supreme Court just eviscerate this pillar of our Constitution over the last few years. So I know that again, we all do the thing, we all get together and we all kind of some of this is so dumb, oh my gosh. But also, this is really deeply important that the mayor of New York City apparently feels really comfortable with saying, oh, I don't think we should have a separation of church and state. That affects everybody, not just those of us that are atheists, not just those of us that are non-religious. That affects all of us, because if you're not their type of religious, you'll be on the chopping block next, just the same as the rest of us. But yeah, I know we've got some other good thoughts too on this. Scott, what did you think when you heard about this?
Well, first of all, Ron DeSantis, just keep to your own headlines. You get enough headlines as it is. Now you're kind of squeaking into the New York headlines too. But yeah, we would have expected things like this coming out of Florida. That's fairly standard, especially, and I've said this before on previous broadcasts, is that he is running for president, and so we can expect outrageous things, whether or not they actually represent what the candidate truly believes or not. We expect this kind of thing to be coming out of candidates like that. But come on, New York. I mean, we thought New York was one of our strongholds, right? And so, but we're not sure now. But there's really a couple things here. This stuff came out when Adams was talking at I believe it was a prayer breakfast or something like that. And one of the things that he said, it's not just that he was questioning the separation of church and state. It's the way he said it. And here's the quote: "Don't tell me about no separation of church and state." So not only does that tell us that he's maybe less concerned than he should be about like SR, like you were saying, one of the pillars of our nation, but that he knows that there's an expectation of the separation of church and state, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Now, he was talking at a prayer breakfast, and so maybe he was talking, maybe he was politicking. There's always that part of it too, but it's the way that he chose to politic. He's kind of scoffing at this part of the U.S. Constitution, and it's been around for a long time. We've seen it's taken a few hits lately, many hits lately, to the point where, well, I'm starting to worry. Is this? Are we going to be going with one less pillar in the future? So so that's something that was worrisome. He's definitely made his position known, and that he's willing to cross that line. And so that's the first thing that he said. The second thing that he said that was worrying, and this is not just the separation of church and state, but he said this: when we took prayers out of schools, guns came into the schools. Now, in some ways, that's less disturbing because it's not going against the Constitution, which is something that Adams swore to uphold. But in a very more real way, it's very much more disturbing because it's going to put people in danger. If we misattribute the cause and some of the contributors of this gun problem, of this gun injury problem, this gun violence problem that we have in this country, if we keep pointing fingers in the wrong directions, we know what happens there. Not only is it not going to help us, but it's going to prevent other actions that could also be helping us. Rachel Laser, president of the Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, said this. By the way, Rachel Laser is an awesome name. I love that. Not only is it simply untrue that prayer alone will end school shootings, but his words ignore the fact that students are free to voluntarily pray in school specifically because of the separation of church and state. And so it's counterproductive. He's talking against himself in a damaging way. Jason, what's your take on that?
So I wanted to explore two things that he said, and one of them is going to actually expand on the quote that you gave earlier, but I wanted to read his tweet talking to Governor DeSantis and saying, welcome to New York City, a place where we don't ban books, discriminate against our LGBTQ plus neighbors with asylum seekers as props, or let government stand between women and healthcare. And it's like, oh, why is there a rift with Florida and New York and all that? Because of the things that the DeSantis has done by taking migrants out of Texas and then flying them to New York, all on Florida taxpayer dime. That's why DeSantis isn't currently running for president. It's likely that he is, but no announcement has been made of that, at least up to the point of this recording. I haven't checked the news yet. It's possible that he could have changed his mind. So we do need to kind of, treat this with a little bit of kid's gloves here, because, again, he is making moves that seems like he's trying to go outside of his current office. And the next thing I wanted to highlight was Adams then kind of slipping into a more conservative mindset. And after he said, don't tell me about no separation of church and state, he kind of went into a very, very weird place, saying that The state is the body. Church is the heart. If you take the heart out of the body dies. And that's just, it's so confusing that he's conflating the two. And it's like, I can't separate my beliefs because I'm an elected official. No one's asking you to. You can still have your beliefs, but you need to govern for the people, not just for yourself. When I walk with God. When I talk with God. But I put politics in its place. It doesn't sound like you do. I put them with a godlike approach to them. That's who I am. No, sir. No, sir. What you are doing is absolutely vile and disgusting. You are not serving your people. You're serving yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Jimmy, any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I had a few thoughts. So I thought it was ironic that, no matter where you go, you're talking about two different political parties, and both of them seem to be kowtowing to faith-based agencies. The thing that's really shocking for me is that this idea of the separation of church and state is really one of the only or very few truly unifying principles that that we as members of this country get to use to define who we are, among a few other things. But a lot of people really don't know what it's like to be able to exercise that. And so to see that maybe being diminished in any direction you look is very alarming. And I think that Eric Adams should take a look at what's happening in Florida and take a lesson from Ron DeSantis before he starts going down this trail. The LGBTQ community is being underrepresented and not served in Florida, and nor are African Americans with the banning of this AP course that Ron DeSantis does not want to see in high schools. And so it's just it's not a good direction to go. And this speech by Eric Adams just gave me an opportunity. I'll wrap it up real quick, but I just want to say a little rant here if I can. He says that schools lost God and then they gained school shootings. Of course, I thought that was extremely grotesque. Somebody had famously said this, or maybe a well-known person said this. I don't remember who it was, so I can't adequately give credit. But basically, God was always allowed in churches, and it didn't stop children from being molested. And I think that's really powerful. I couldn't put that down. And I think it applies, right? So we just got to get our mind off of this idea that, God is out there letting things happen and not happen. He's always been allowed to go wherever he wants, theoretically, right? And it hasn't stopped Christianity from killing. I think the agreed upon number is like 69 million people. So let's just keep God out of it and kind of let's get back to governance. That's just my take on it. Scott, what do you think about that?
I agree completely. Completely. And that kind of ties in with what Jason was saying about how he said that he can't separate his faith, his beliefs from who he is. And to that, I would just say, well, if you can't do the job, then don't accept the job. I mean, that's part of the job. You swore to uphold the U.S. Constitution. That's the law of the land. That's the supreme law of this land. And if you can't do it, then don't say you're going to do it. But I just have one little quick little treat here. Just on a whim, I went to Chat GPT and I asked it to write me a little poem. I said, explain the separation of church and state in limerick form. And here's what it came up with. In a nation that's free and diverse, church and state must be kept in reverse. For government to rule, no religion is the school. So let's keep our faith and laws well versed.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're supposed to snap. We're supposed to snap.
All right. Far out.
I love that. And I will not be as eloquent in what I have to say as that, nor will it rhyme. But my final thoughts on this are really simple, which is not religious does not equal not moral. Period. End of sentence, folks. And we have to continue that message. We have to continue normalizing atheism. And that's definitely something that we all here are ready to do. And we know if you're out there watching us right now, you are too. So thank you for that, because this type of rhetoric, it just needs to stop because it just demonstrably is untrue. Jason, final thoughts on this, and we'll wrap up with this last article.
I would just say that for everyone out there, take a good hard look at your candidates. Find out what they're all about. Really, really look into them. We can't tell you who to vote for. I wouldn't even begin to tell you who to vote for in your own area because I don't live in your area. I don't have your experiences. I would just say vote for your best interests. Don't vote against your interests.
Yeah, definitely. Always a good thing. And just as a reminder, folks, we here at the ACA are big fans of separation of church and state. So big fans of that. And if you actually are a fan of that, or you're just a fan of the stuff that we do here at the ACA, why not become a member of the channel? You can do it for as little as 99 cents a month. So not even a full $1. And all you do is click the join button below the video, and this will give you access to all kinds of special chat emojis and stuff. So you can just spam those everywhere and make the mods all yell at me later on, which, sorry about that, mods. But also we have merch. So maybe you don't want to spam the chat with emojis. That's okay. Just visit tiny.cc/merchaca. And you can get all your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs. And make sure you check out the new items like beanies, phone cases, and tote bags. And don't forget that every single month, the ACA shows feature a special limited edition item. And you can see it right there in the middle there. I freaking love this design. So make sure you guys go check out the store for all the great nonprofits merch and the merch from all the other shows. And remember, some of those items are limited edition, so you got to get them quick, folks. So while you guys are doing that and getting your awesome ACA merch, we're going to hear about a step in the right direction. Scott, what's going on? What's happening here?
Well, this is an article from yahoo.com in the lifestyle section. Here's the headline. These parents publicly took a stand for LGBTQ rights. Now they say their kid's Christian school retaliated. And that's by David Artavia on March 1st of this year. So there's this family down that they are living in Southern California. They did not specify the church and school that they go to. In fact, they specifically avoided saying what the church was. Apparently there was some legal issue that they were worried about, but that's fine. We can still discuss what's going on here. The parents were sharing some tweets. I think it was on Twitter. I don't know. There's so many social media outlets these days. It's hard to keep track of them all, but they were doing something on social media where they were, clutch your pearls here, they were supporting the rights of human beings. Go figure. So they were supporting their LGBTQ family members and friends and people that they know in general. And so they thought they were doing the right thing. And then next thing they know, their church starts retaliating. Their church and their school. I couldn't really tell if the problem was mainly with the church or with the school, or if the two were kind of one and the same. I'm guessing that last thing is probably what's happening here. But then the church started shunning them, shun on. And so they were start getting the cold shoulder from families and from administration at the school. I don't know. Jason, what do you think about this?
I think that people can learn and people can change. And I commend these parents that they were able to take a look into their own lives, their own beliefs, and that they were able to say, hey, no, wait. What this church is about isn't right. And it's sad because this family has been part of this church since they were young. Okay. Both the mother and the father had gone to this church, met in this church, their relationship blossomed into it, and then they were able to bring their kids into the church. And so it was kind of like a family traditional thing. And while none of us here really care about the church per se, the fact that they had this belief structure and that, they wanted to continue to be somewhere where they had such great memories is commendable. And what's even more commendable is that they were able, like I said, to change that. And it is concerning with the church itself and the school that you have to sign this contract, that you specifically have to align exactly with this church. I mean, that is indoctrination 101, right? That is your behavioral change. That it's emotional and scare tactics, because now they're able to be dismissed either with events, because they couldn't be in any events. What is good about this story is because we've seen the parents want to stay in this church regardless of the hate and rhetoric and all that, but they decided, no, this is too damaging to our family, and regardless of how much time we spent there, we got to go. And so they did eventually pull the kids out of that school, and they're probably going to find another church. Hopefully they can keep moving away from that church to the point where they don't even come into a church, and they can get nice little hoodies like this.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I definitely have to start off by saying how much I commend these parents, how much I am in support of this. It took a lot in a lot of different ways. I mean, they have 2 kids, 5 and 7, that were affected by this, and saw this backlash, at school. I also want to say this real quick, because I think it's important. I don't care if you're a Muslim, if you're a Scientologist, if you're a Mormon, whatever. If you're willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with me and raise your voice in support of LGBTQ plus people and their rights, if you're willing to stand on my side and push back against this garbage, hateful, bigoted ideology that is sweeping the United States right now, I'm going to put all that other shit aside. Plain and simple. I'm going to put it all aside for a second, because this is too important for us to be squabbling over, they're Christians. We can't. Look, if you're willing to take this stance as a Christian, you're on my fucking team. Period. End of sentence. Because I'm just tired of seeing this garbage continue over and over. Like you said, Jason, you pointed out the statement of faith. I agree 100%. I think those things are so gross. I think, and maybe this is just a really ridiculous stance, y'all. So y'all help me out here, but I think people should receive proper education, healthcare, and security, regardless of their fucking beliefs or lack thereof. I maybe that's ridiculous, but
No, that sounds reasonable.
okay, yeah, Jimmy, what do you think?
Well, I absolutely think that sounds reasonable, and one of my biggest critiques of where our country is heading in the right direction is not having a superior education system. I think that we can really overcome a lot of these deficiencies, especially with this kind of thinking. There is another point I wanted to make on this story, and it's almost one of like missed opportunity, and Jamie and Josh, my question to them would be, are you really surprised that this happened to you? You really can't give too much leeway to a really cult-like religious community, and you can't expect anything other than what they did to them, unfortunately, at least in my experience. I would say that, not only do I commend them for standing shoulder to shoulder with the LGBTQ community, but also, if I'm not mistaken, this article, either the main article or some of the other articles that were associated with it, Jamie actually alluded to having some of her own heterosexual tendencies, and talked about having suffered years of religious trauma. And now these are people that she knew her whole life, right? Both of them. So I was surprised to think that maybe they were surprised. And I almost was like, man, they were so close to just turning their back on it completely and kind of moving on, right? Taking their kids away from that. But instead, unfortunately, the way I see it is that they kind of got sucked back into a different community, and they subjected their kids to potentially the very same problem. And I hope it's not harmful over the long run to their children or their family. And while I do commend them, of course, Man, they were so close to just taking that next extra step, and maybe that'll come later. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah. Scott, any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think this is a case of crossed wires here. I mean, they obviously were trying to do what they thought was best, and they thought that supporting their church was the best thing that they could do. And then when they saw that, they had this idea what was right and what the church says, and they thought that they were the same thing. But when they saw that they started to diverge, they went with the route that they thought was right. And that definitely is commendable. And that's difficult to do in front of people that they were saying that, most of their friends were members of this church and are no longer in contact with them. I would like to throw in a Bible quote here. This is from Proverbs 1, verse 31. It says, "They will eat the fruit of their ways and be filled with the fruit of their schemes." So in other words, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it, right? And so by supporting, and I think this actually can act as a microcosm for church-state separation in general in this country. And so we have people, well-intentioned people, who are taking brave steps to do what they think is right. And because of this irrational belief system, their good intentions can get misdirected. They were supporting this group, and then they found out that they were actually supporting, well, basically what boils down to a hate group, right? They were saying that you shouldn't support the rights of these human beings. And like SR said, they deserve everything that everyone else does. They deserve to be supported. They deserve to be loved. They deserve, to be able to love whoever they want. They deserve to get the health care that they need. And this church group was diverting from that. And so I would ask that people that are religious just take a step back and look back at what's going on here. Look back at what you're doing here. The problem with allowing this religious creep into the government, the problem with doing that is, what if it's not your religion? That's what they found out here. Yeah. They thought their religious beliefs were on par with what they thought were right, and they found out that they were wrong. Okay, so by supporting it, you might not, there's a lot of Christians in this country, and many of them might be comfortable it's okay. God should be the mayor of New York. He can't separate his godliness from his, role as the mayor. And so there's many people that have difficulty separating that. And so they think by supporting one thing, they're supporting the other. And then they find out, oh, that's not what I thought it was. But now we're stuck. I don't know. Jason, what do you think?
Well, I actually wanted to key off of something that Jimmy said a little bit earlier about being surprised, or that these weren't these two surprised that this was happening. And I think it's easy for a lot of atheists to armchair quarterback, if I can use a sports ball term, and say, it's like, yeah, no, I'm seeing this. Why didn't they see that? And a lot of that is part of the indoctrination. It's why, Jehovah's Witnesses are able to smile while they're being as hateful as they are, or Mormons, the nicest people in the world, until you really dive down into their beliefs. So it's easy for us to be on the outside going, it's like, I could see that coming from a mile away. But these people can't, and a lot of people can't. And if I had the ability to say anything to this couple and their kids, and to anyone else, if anybody else is starting to see the cracks in the walls of their church, I would encourage them to seek out Recovering from Religion. Talk to some of their operators over there, and you might find out that you are actually being abused by your institution, and that you should take a good hard look at what to do about that. Not every institution is as bad as this. None of them, in my opinion, are good, but some of them are to a lesser degree. And so, yeah, if you feel like you're being told what to do, how to act, that is in conflict with your thoughts and ideas, I would encourage you to seek out some additional information to make sure that you and your family are protected against this type of indoctrination.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Jimmy, any other thoughts on this?
Yes. So I just want to correct myself real quick. I think I said Jamie alluded to having heterosexual tendencies. She actually, it was homosexual, I meant to say. So I think at some point, in her life, or maybe even still now, she finds herself, attracted and interested in women, etc. But moving on. Yeah, really well said, Jason. The indoctrination, it's something that we all go through. And, I just know from my own experience, having to tell somebody that I no longer am the Lutheran that you think I am, and to have them look down and shake their head at me, it stings. It still stings a decade and a half later. And if I had something to say to them, it would certainly be, bravo. That took a lot of courage. It hurts when it happens, and you still went through it. I think taking their children first and foremost was the best thing to do out of that environment. So I would wish them all the best, and I would encourage them. Maybe start looking into those cracks if they are appearing.
Yeah. And just to finish out my thoughts on this, I spoke to all the believers out there earlier and said, look, if you're on my side when it comes to LGBT, rights, and when you're on my side when it comes to human rights and these types of issues that we highlight here, I really want you to understand this, which is faith is not on your side. Religion is not on your team. Morality dictated from some magical being has never been historically on your side. Join the group of people who are actually fighting your same fight, because we're out there and we need help. So even though, like I said, I'm willing to put aside that other stuff during these fights, I'm not going to go through all the different Bible verses and the flood myth and all. I'll put that aside, but I'm telling you, you can be a hell of a lot more effective joining on our side, because we're the side that's actually fighting with you. Scott, final thoughts before we wrap up and get the heck out of here?
Just spinning off of what you were just saying just now, I think it's important to note that, you were saying religion or not, if you support human beings like I do, you're welcome to hang out with us, and I think I speak for everyone on the panel, maybe not, but I'm not anti-religion. I'm not against religion. I'm anti-irrational. Religion, at least in theory, could be rational. And if it were, I'd be fine with it. I wouldn't have a problem there, but none that I've seen have passed that test. And like many of us, I've spent a lot of time looking. So just be careful. Becoming a member of an organization that's based on irrational beliefs is just asking for trouble. And so look at things that way, rather than trying to think of it as a religion, not religion. Think of it in terms of rational and irrational. Yeah. That would be my final word.
I like it, man. And before we head out, folks, we always thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We always go over some very interesting topics, and we just love the fact that this community is growing. And if you want to help the community grow even more, you can do so by joining the fan social media outlets, because you can find most of the nonprofit hosts on the atheist community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord, and on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. And if you would like to support the show, there are a bunch of ways you can do it, but one great way is by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And we love your feedback. We want to know what you like, what you don't like. So make sure to throw them in the comments below, or just shoot us an email at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. And always feel free to visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org on the latest, so you know what's been happening and you stay up to date. And you know what? If you got time and you want to, why not just contact the ACA directly at tv@atheist-community.org. Well, I definitely have had a great time today. We talked about a lot of good stuff, I think. But before we go, I want to give everybody just a quick 30 seconds, and we'll start with our special guest, Jimmy Jr. We appreciate you being here. Do you think you'll come back and give us your thoughts real quick to wrap us up?
I hope that you'll have me back. I would love to. The ACA changed my life. I'm happy to be here and joining you guys in this mission. This was a great panel. SR, you are a fantastic host, and I had a blast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah. We are excited to have you here. Then Scott, give us your last little thoughts, man. You know I love hanging out with you. We haven't done it enough
for
lately.
sure.
So
as
what are your
always,
thoughts?
it's always an interesting evening when it's a nonprofits evening. So it was cool to hang out with Jason and SR and my new friend Jimmy. It's nice meeting you. I do hope you come back,
Absolutely.
and I hope I'll get a chance to sit on a panel with you again. All three of you, actually. So it's always a good time. I always walk away, I'm going to have insomnia tonight because I'm going to be thinking everything that we talked about here. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I got plenty to keep me going.
You can sleep better knowing that aliens aren't causing Havana Syndrome. That's
Do
at
we
least good,
know
right?
that though? Do we know that?
And finally, always wonderful to have Jason here with us, man. It's good to be back on a panel. Give us your final thoughts and we'll all get the heck out of here and go do blasphemy or something.
Oh, I was really hoping you wouldn't throw it to me. No, I just definitely, enjoyed being here. I think after Scott has shown how eloquent ChatGPT can be, the next time that I appear here, I'm just going to throw everything into ChatGPT so I don't have to actually do any work.
It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, man. Well, once again, everybody, as always, we love doing this stuff. And if you loved it, please tell us. If you hated it, I don't know, tell us that too, I guess. You know how to do it. So with that, thank you everyone for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.